This is Learn from Others, where we interview a cross-section of successful individuals so you can learn from their experiences, achievements, and even their mistakes. We ask 4 questions that will educate and inspire. Greg Stanley will be your guide as we join our guest on a journey from adolescent daydreaming to success in today's world. Join us on this adventure as we learn from others together.
Well, welcome to Learn for Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, Jill Guth. Jill, thank you for taking us on your career journey.
Thank you, Greg.
Well, before we find out what you're doing today, let's start at the very beginning. And can you tell us, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I really, as a little girl, I dreamt and continued this dream of getting married and being a stay-at-home mom.
I love it. And you were very successful at that, weren't you?
I was able to accomplish that. Married someone who was able to financially support that, and we made it work, and I am thankful. Yes, thankful for that.
So going way back to when you were little, did you have a favorite subject or hobby in school?
I would say that my favorite hobby and class, really, I did well in academics, but I enjoyed choir, enjoyed singing, and we traveled in high school with that. And so I would say music, choir and music has been the hobby that I enjoyed the most.
So you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and you liked music and choir. So what was your first real job as a teenager?
My first real job out of college was working in the tax assessor treasurer's office in Pierce County, Washington, and I worked there until we changed locations and moved from Tacoma out Belleville, Ohio. And my husband was with the military, and that was where our family began. I started having children at that point, and that is where the working life took a back seat.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you became a stay-at-home mom, raised some kids,
Mm-hmm.
and now if you would, tell us what you do today, which is very interesting, and kind of walk us through how you got there and a little bit about the role.
Yeah, so today what I do is very different and interesting. I'm continuing to learn about this role, but even though I've been there for 4 years as working for a major company in the world, really, for flavoring, developing flavoring and fragrances. And my specific area of expertise is in the area of tasting and describing and developing flavors in the area of savory foods and snack foods.
So I find this subject fascinating. Tell us about the interview process, because I know not anyone can do this job. And I believe there was a very interesting interview process you had to go through.
Very interesting. And it was long and drawn out, but it was clear that it would be very important for whoever started this job to have a basic understanding of the tastes such as sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami.
Wait, go over those again, please. I know some of those,
Yes.
but I don't know all those.
Sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami.
That's the one I don't know.
Yes. And umami is, it has become over the last several years a new one added to this mix because it is definitely a basic sensation in the mouth. It's a flavor, but also a fullness that is a little difficult to understand, but there's just a richness and a fullness of it, and that's one that really has taken more training, because it isn't one that I grew up knowing about. It's just been added in the last few years. It's real, very real and true. It's actually a flavor that is tomatoes and mushrooms are full of umami.
That's funny because I like tomatoes, but I like mushrooms, but I don't like tomatoes.
Yeah. And,
interesting.
Meats and cheeses all enhance the umami flavor in the mouth.
So you walk into the room for an interview. Lay it out for us.
So walking into the room for an interview, you start off as there's a group of you who are interviewing together. You sit around a table, and you all are actually tasting something, and you're expected to have reactions to the taste of this food item. And based upon how you interact with each other and can speak up for yourself and what you're getting, even if it might be different from what others are getting, that's they're looking for that to see if you can bring other things to the table and your own opinions and ideas and thoughts about what you're tasting. even if it is different from other people. Some people have a hard time speaking up. And so we start off with group sessions such as these, and there are even a couple of people who are planted in there. I have found out since a couple of people who are planted in there who are already expert taste testers, and they're kind of working it at the same time and paying attention to things. So the screenings go on. You go on like this for a couple of times, and then there's one-on-one. You're coming in, you're going into booths, and you're tasting by yourself in a little booth, and they're getting you to decide, which is more salty, which is less salty, which is more bitter and less bitter, and so on and so on. And you go. But yes, it is quite an intensive training. They don't expect you to fully be aware and of all of the flavors that are involved in everything you're going to be doing. There's such a great learning curve there. And once you do get hired, your data is not even included in the consensus of scores from each of the panelists until about 6 months down the road, because they expect that you have a lot to learn in that first 6 months.
Wow, so you're really kind of training your taste buds how to identify, kind of hone your skills from a tasting perspective?
Yes, for sure.
Do you remember what one of the things you tried like on your first day and you were like, I can't believe I'm trying this? Was anything like different, or is it liquid? Is it actual food? Is it spicy crackers?
We start out a lot by smelling. They have Sense-It kits, and we smell what we're going to be tasting and how the smells are going to be the things we use to describe what we're tasting. Because so much of what we taste is involved in our smell and in what we take into our nose, from behind our nose up and through our sinuses, and then also what you smell before you even put the food in your mouth. So there's a big piece of this that is related to your sense of smell, and that needs to be trained, and this whole language has to be learned before you can really go in and know how to correlate the two senses of smell and taste.
Wow. Okay. Kind of as a recap, because I don't know if we said it, but you're a taste tester for a major flavor company. And some of the things you would be testing for, now these might be flavor ingredients. Is that correct? Like the cherry that is now cherry jello, or I don't know, a ramen noodle chicken flavor. You're testing the chicken flavor, not necessarily the final product. Is that correct?
You're correct on all of that. We taste the flavoring. Oftentimes it's mixed in water, and we are tasting it mixed in water before it's applied, say, to a noodle or a piece of meat or another product. So oftentimes we do a lot of testing of marinades and broth and like bases of ingredients such as alternative proteins. So soy-based products, we're tasting the actual base is soy. What does soy protein taste like? What does hay taste like? What do oats taste like? And pea proteins and vegetable proteins. There's just, it goes on and on how many proteins we can be coming up with, that could be in an alternative protein product.
So is this kind of like, you go to the vineyard and you take your glass of wine and you look at the legs and you swirl it around and you sniff it? Is there a process similar to that? Do you swish it around and spit it out? Do you have palate cleansing crackers?
Yes. They encourage you to do a certain amount of that and to swish and spit. Actually, we have our little spit cup that the reason for that is the theory is if you get too saturated with food, your sense of taste isn't as keen. So it is sometimes better, depending on how much we're going to be tasting, to not swallow. But yes, the smell, your question about smell, we're smelling, maybe not as much as you would with a glass of wine, but you do smell some before you taste. But then, as I said before, even as you're tasting, you are also smelling up the backside of your throat and in through your sinuses. There's a smell process that's going on at that point, that you smell something completely different. And in some cases, we haven't been asked to do this as much, but in some cases they will ask you to use nose plugs. When you're tasting, you realize that you can taste those basic tastes in your mouth without a nose plug, but to really identify the specific details of the thing that you're tasting, you have to take off those nose plugs and actually smell to be able to identify what is in your mouth most of the time.
Interesting. Yeah, like when you have a cold and you can't taste your soup or whatever.
Yes, Yes, that all changes. It changes us, yes, because we know that changes. And it's interesting how uniquely we are all made, because there are certain people in our panel. They can pick up on the herb a little bit more than some others, and some can pick up on black pepper. It's important that we learn who to listen to for those things, because some of us are not as quick to pick up on certain flavors as others.
And that's why you have a panel more than just a couple.
Yes.
And that's also why your opinion doesn't count until you have 6 months of testing and practice and honing of your skills under your belt, correct?
That's correct.
So am I correct that you're not trying to get that tastes better than this? You're trying to get a essence of chicken or essence of whatever. Is that correct? Like, you're not necessarily looking for a good or bad. You're trying to get the best flavor.
Correct. I mean, so when you think of a typical consumer who is out eating, or you're just at home, you're eating your food, oftentimes say, oh, I like that or I don't like that, but very rarely do we think about, why don't I like it, or why do I like it? Working at a job like this, you have to, you start to learn why you're liking certain foods and why you're not liking certain foods. But that isn't the reason that we're doing what we're doing. We are told very little, first of all, about the product that we're tasting, so that we can be very objective about what it is we're doing and this exercise that we're going through. And yet there's still a lot of it that is subjective, because we all have our individual descriptions that we're getting. We specifically are taking what a customer, such as a company is considered a customer for us. So the company comes to us and they say, our consumers have not been happy with this flavor, we need to fix it. And they tell, our reports what it is that they're looking for and how they're wanting to fix it. Something's wrong. There's an off taste. There's something people are saying they're getting an off taste. So please put this before the panel and have them tell us where this off taste is coming from and what we need to do to fix it. And so we just listen to the customer, and we just have to stick with what they're looking for and practice and hone in on those pieces as we're told. But not even that. Sometimes we're just told to describe what we're tasting. Just describe what you're tasting. And so then we're not even told what they're looking for, but what in our description, that can go back to the customer, that can go back to the flavorist, and they can say, okay, they can apply it to what the customer is telling them that they want. If they want a sweeter taste, or they want to add some more pepper flavors. And our company has their gold standards, and so we usually start there and then figure out how to tweak it regarding what each customer is looking for.
Yeah, so speak to that for a second, the gold standard. So internally, they might have, I keep on going back to chicken for some reason, I don't know why, but...
That's okay, we do a lot with chicken.
Okay, let's say here's the gold standard for chicken flavor, and that's kind of their, after 50 years of experimentation, they know that's the gold standard, and that's the starting point for the request typically, or that's the gauge for the request?
Yeah, so for like a chicken broth, yes. I mean, we do a lot of tasting of meats as well that have certain flavors on them. So when I was talking before, I was saying we do both tasting the flavoring in water and the flavoring on different types of food bases. And if they're looking for it to be on a chicken, then eventually it'll come to us on that piece of chicken, get it in a chicken soup or something along those lines.
Yeah, so it's funny because, I work for a candy company and I worked for a cookie cracker company in the past, and people are like, oh, can I be a taste tester? And so I think a lot of folks are picturing you walk into a room and I've got like 10 different kinds of cookies I get to try, or 10 different kinds of candy I get to try. And yours is totally different than that. Yours is all about the taste and the flavor and not necessarily the end product, which is very interesting.
Right. It is very interesting.
Yeah. Do you ever know the end product? Do you know that, what I worked on 6 months ago is now in, stovetop stuffing or something?
Sometimes we're told what it is. And, and sometimes we'll be tasting a bunch of different, say, ranch dressings or whatever. And, there's some that we just really, it's just very offensive. And we look at each other and wonder, why in the world is this even on the market? Go on the market. And then there's other ones who will go, oh, I want to know what that one is. We try to remember which one that was that we tasted. And then after the project is all over and we've done it, then sometimes we can know what they are. But yeah, we have to go into it not having any awareness of what we're tasting. Sometimes we can kind of guess because, we've all eaten things off the shelf, so we know certain flavors of things.
Right, and also your position in particular is part-time, correct? Because you don't want your taste buds to get overstimulated?
Yeah, that can happen where you become fatigued. And they've experimented with different lengths of time to have a panel come in and work with food products, and they've gone from, say, having them be there for 5 or 6 hours to now having them there for 3.5 hours because of the fatigue that happens with your taste buds. You wear out, and eventually everything can start to taste the same. You know that when you get to that point where they just get tired.
Right. And that could skew your whole list of results there, so it's smart to realize that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, before we move on to our next question, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Do you enjoy your job and find it fulfilling? Or do you spend more time wondering what if instead of what's next? If so, contact Career Spa. Career Spa has extensive programs and curriculum and understands the challenges faced by individuals in transition. They can teach these success practices to be mastered for an effective job search. Answer that what if question by contacting Career Spa and asking their experts, what's next? Contact Career Spa at careerspa.net. Talent acquisition is key to building a successful organization. Talent Connections is a professional services firm that specializes in recruiting, including executive search, contract recruiting, talent acquisition consulting, and recruitment process outsourcing. Whether you are an individual or a Fortune 100 company, Talent Connections can connect you with success. Contact them at talentconnections.net. Welcome back. We just learned what you wanted to be when you grew up, which was a stay-at-home mom, which you did fantastically, and what you actually do today, which is a taste tester for a major flavor company. So if you could do it all over again, would you do anything differently?
Oh, from the very beginning of time?
Yes, the very beginning of time.
Well, I think through raising my kids, I did discover things that I would have enjoyed learning about it that I didn't know, and I would have had no way of knowing until I got into living life a little bit. I think I would have gone into doing some counseling work or maybe gone to school for psychology, maybe gone in that direction a little bit.
Right. Maybe tried a couple other things.
Yeah, I would have really enjoyed that. It's great to, go through life, discover things that you didn't know you'd ever be doing in your wildest imagination. So to be tasting and realizing that I actually had some kind of little skill here that I had zero idea about that I could actually do and develop, it was really exciting.
Yeah, it's a really cool job for sure.
Very cool job. I love it.
Well, let's make the assumption that someone in our audience wants to be a taste tester. What advice would you give them? I'm assuming there might not be a typical career path, but maybe there is.
Yeah, I would say if that's something you really want to do, then figure out what company is around you, wherever close by, and go in and talk to them and find out how to get your foot in the door. There's a whole array of flavor just in general, and food is an exciting part of life to you. Then you could even take some classes or courses and go to culinary school or something of the sort, or becoming a flavorist. There are full-time positions that you can do that would be in the area of developing flavors for this world that we live in. There's also so many different avenues and places in the world that plays a different role or a different part in the development of flavors, and obviously different types of food grow in different parts of the world. So based upon where you live or where you want to live or what kinds of food you enjoy, I would say just go out and start exploring, and maybe even start cooking, start experimenting with spices and seasonings, and put yourself through some of your own tests along the way, and ask yourself questions like, why do I like this food? Why do I not like this food? And there's so much available to us online anymore. You can look up how to describe food and go about it that way. Start doing a little research.
Well, as with most journeys, success largely depends on reliable transportation. And since I'm a huge car enthusiast, could you tell us what was your first car?
Yes, I had a hatchback Toyota Celica.
Oh, those are nice. What year? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do not. I do not remember what year. I am not a car.
What color?
Person. It was an orange. It was like orange brown.
Oh,
with a pinstripe.
Okay, I'm going to say that's nice.
Kind of a yellow pinstripe down the side. Yes, it was nice, and it was stick shift. I love driving a manual, so that was fun.
Okay, so I'm thinking early 80s?
It was older. It was an older car.
Well, what's your dream car if you have one?
I can't say that I have a dream car. Kind of having fun right now in my new little Mazda MX-5 Miata.
That's a great little car.
Yeah, cute little convertible. I'm driving around and enjoying that. Interestingly, I drove an F-150, truck not that long ago, and I thought, oh, this is great. Being up in the world and having all this room, and I can practical thing, but it wasn't practical when I had a lot of kids. But now I can be thinking a little less practically.
Right. Well, you could put that Miata in the back of the F-150
I
practically.
Could. Great idea.
Well, one great perk to some jobs is a company car. So if I had all the money in the world and I could buy you a cool company car, I've picked one out based on your job, which was pretty hard to do. So stick with me here. My thought process was, all right, you're in the business of making things people enjoy. So you go through a lot, taste testing to figure out the right thing so the consumer will buy it. So I went from that perspective and I Googled how did I Google it? Anyways, I came up with the top 10 cars based on car and driver, like who won the most. Unfortunately, it was a Honda Accord. So I didn't pick that because that's not a very cool car. So the first year they did it was 1983. And the car that came in second for being most consistently picked was the Volkswagen GTI, the Golf GTI. So a little hot hatchback, stick shift only. So
Sweet.
Got that going for it. That car came out in 1975, but I picked the 1983 version, which is now a classic.
Sweet.
If I had all the money in the world, that's the car I'd get for you as your taste tester company car.
Well, thank you. I will have to find a picture of that and frame it and put it up on my wall. The lucky winner of
Yeah, it's nice that it only came in stick shift because you just said you love driving manual. And they're pretty cool because they had the seats were kind of a plaid design, which is neat. And most of them were black, or if not all of them were black, and they had a red stripe around the center line of the whole car. So cool little car. So when I post this, I will send you a picture of your 1983 Volkswagen GTI.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, thank you.
So thank you so much for taking us on your journey today, Jill.
You're very welcome, Greg.
Thank you for listening to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. Where will our next adventure take us? Subscribe to find out. If you know of someone who has a cool career story or occupation, contact Greg through Instagram at Greg Stanley LFO. That's GregStanley LFO. And we will see you soon as we learn from others together.